Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a major winter storm which is currently out through the Rockies and into the southwestern United States. That's going to be pulling up through the east side of the Rockies, moving up through the northern plains and the Great Lakes. And then we have a lot of questions for parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic as to whether those areas will be either in the rain, the snow, or just the dry area of the storm. There's still a lot of uncertainty within that area particularly. We're also going to be talking about the severe storm threat for parts of the southern United States. We already have a moderate risk of severe weather for parts of Texas and Oklahoma out for today. And we have a slight risk on their Day 5 outlook for parts of the southeastern United States. So we're going to be going over all of that and more in today's video. So make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end so that you get all the information. So here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. It is actually quite active. Today we have some winter weather advisories in effect for northwestern California, as well as some winter storm watches in the dark blue in northern California, especially in the higher elevations. Freeze warnings and frost advisories in effect for parts of northwestern California as well. We have some winter weather advisories anywhere in the purple out through parts of the Rockies and the Great Plains. We have winter storm warnings in effect for parts of Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, and South Dakota, as well as blizzard warnings in effect for parts of Wyoming and northwestern Nebraska. We also have winter storm watches out for the same storm out through northern Iowa, southern Minnesota, and 2 counties in eastern South Dakota. We have flood watches in effect for parts of southern Kansas, southern Missouri, northern Oklahoma, and northwestern Arkansas, with flood warnings currently in effect for much of southern Missouri and southeastern parts of Kansas there. We have, I believe, those are dense fog advisories, if I'm not mistaken, for parts of northern Oklahoma, northern Texas, northeastern parts of New Mexico, and southern Kansas as well. We have red flag warnings in effect for western Texas and eastern New Mexico, with some wind advisories in parts of Texas and New Mexico, as well as some high wind watches in effect for parts of New Mexico as well. We have, I believe, those are dense fog advisories in effect for parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and also into Florida there. And then we have some red flag warnings in effect for southern New England, where we are dealing with some critical fire danger in those areas. Yesterday, your high temperature was in Rio Grande Village. They got to 100 in Texas. They got to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the first triple digit or 100 degree plus temperature of the year that was recorded in the continental United States. So definitely we're starting to head into the warmer months, and we're starting to get into the summertime, so those temperatures are only going to continue to rise. In Daniel, Wyoming, we got to negative 19 degrees. That was the low temperature for the entire continental United States. In Chemnitz, Illinois, they got 3.95 inches of rainfall, and the high snowfall report was 4 miles east of Huntington Lake, California, where they got 18 inches of snowfall. That's in some of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. We also have flood watches for the entirety of Hawaii, as well as a few blizzard warnings and winter weather advisories in effect for parts of Alaska. So let's start talking about the severe threat and this winter storm, and let's start off with what your current radar looks like. So we're going to start zoomed in here over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. You can see that especially over the northern panhandle of Texas and through northeastern New Mexico, we're dealing with some really big severe weather over these areas. We already have, I believe, a 15% chance of tornadoes over these areas, especially for this area, I believe is where they highlighted. So we have a very high risk. Already, it's only about 8:30 as of when I'm recording Central Time. So these areas aren't even getting started, and they're already into the severe weather, and as we go through the day, we're going to see even more and more severe weather, especially located over this entire region right through here. It looks like this area is going to be the bullseye zone for this severe weather event. If we take a zoomed out approach, you can see that we have that snow out through the Rockies. The higher elevations of the Rockies make radar displays very, very tricky. So there is snow back through here. You just can't see it because of all the elevation dips and rises, blocks the radar from actually seeing what's going on. So all of this is most likely seeing snow, but it's just not being picked up by the radar. Well, you can see why we have those flood warnings back through parts of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. That's because of all the rain that's going on throughout those areas, and all of that is going to be heading north and eastward through the day today. So This would be by tonight. We're dealing with snow back through the Rockies, so into Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. We're dealing with snow. Don't think that this is all the higher elevations. Areas in Denver, Cheyenne, Wyoming, all of those areas are also going to be under the snow threat. Even though they're not in the necessarily higher elevation regions, they're not in the mountain areas, and they're not maybe 10,000 feet up, 11,000 feet up. Even those areas in the lower elevations are going to be dealing with snow, even closer to 2 feet of snowfall in some of those lower elevations, closer to 4 feet of snowfall in some of the higher elevations. We have all that rain back down through the central United States. That area of rain is going to continue to head further to the east. By the way, here's your severe weather. It's a line of storms somewhat like this that are going to be pushing its way further to the east. This would be by Sunday morning. We're dealing with snow back through Colorado, Wyoming, and also into parts of Nebraska. And then as we move through the day on Sunday into Sunday night, Monday morning, we're dealing with this low pressure currently in parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. According to the European model, we have a high pressure in place for parts of the eastern United States. That's bringing in that cold air, but this low pressure is going to be so intense that it's going to kick this high pressure out. And if there is enough cold air in place, then we could still see some snow for parts of the Northeast. But that's going to be the real question. How fast does this get pushed out of the way by this low pressure system? So there is still a lot of questions that we do have to answer. That low pressure is going to continue through the day on Monday to move further to the east. You can see that this high pressure is kind of getting squashed right through the Northeast. We have a big system out here. And then we have another storm, of course, the one that we're talking about in today's video, back through here. So it's getting squashed. It's getting squeezed through parts of the East Coast. And that's going to allow a little bit of residual cold air to still stay there. Enough that you might start off as a bit of snow or rain for some of these areas in the Northeast. So you can see that by Tuesday morning, snowing over parts of the Great Lakes and also into a little bit of Pennsylvania as well. And then by Wednesday or Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, still a little bit of light snow back through Pennsylvania, upstate New York, a little bit of New Jersey, and then that low pressure slides out to the east according to this because that high pressure is right over here overhead, and it's just going to kind of squeeze this out further to the east, and those effects aren't going to be as major. So we're really going to have to continue to watch this. There is still a lot that could change, of course, with this forecast. If we look at the actual snow amounts, you can definitely tell where the bullseye is. It's over Colorado and Wyoming. The other area that we want to watch out for is going to be over parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa. They already got hit with a storm a little bit actually further to the north just about a week ago, but they're going to be dealing with more snow, maybe even over 6 inches, even 12 inches in some of these areas. So we want to watch out because I don't think a lot of people are talking about this, but this could be a fairly sizable snow event if you live right through here. So we're going to continue to watch this. The GFS does have a different solution here, but before we look at the GFS, just one more thing. You're looking at the snow amounts for the Northeast, and you can tell they're not really too much. It's going to be a light snow event either way if you live in the Northeast, maybe up to 2 inches in some of those isolated areas. Here's what the GFS is showing. Fairly similar, although it doesn't have as much snow for southern South Dakota, northern Nebraska, and it also has less snow back through here. A little bit more snow back through Wisconsin and Illinois, though. So there are still some differences. Also doesn't show as widespread snow back through the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. But you can generally see that we have the same general idea, although there are specifics, such as where exactly does this bullseye set up? Is it a little bit further to the west? Is it a little bit further to the east? How much snow falls within the bullseye? Is it just 8 inches at the maximum, or is it 15 inches at the maximum? There are still some things that we are figuring out, and of course, we're still 2 to 4 days out from this event, so there is still going to be a lot of discrepancy with the models. Here's that severe weather threat, because this is going to be a big deal. This is the first moderate risk we've seen in, I believe, this entire year so far. I believe this is the first moderate risk of the year, although I could be mistaken. There might have been one already, but if I'm not wrong, I do think this is potentially the first moderate risk that we've seen this entire year. That's over the northeastern or the eastern panhandle of Texas in northwestern Texas. You can also see that we have an enhanced risk for parts of northwestern Texas, westernmost Oklahoma, and then a bigger slight risk that goes from the Mexican border all the way up through western Texas into western Oklahoma, and a little bit even of southern and southwestern parts of Kansas. You can see that even the areas that are in the marginal and slight risk are where we're dealing with very severe weather right now, with some very intense rainfall. So even if you're just in that marginal or that slight risk, if you remember from the radar presentation that we just showed you, the radars were picking up on very intense supercell activity back through northeastern New Mexico, northwestern most Texas. Those areas are only under a marginal or slight risk of severe weather. So you don't have to be in the enhanced or moderate risk to be dealing with the heavy and intense thunderstorms. Watch out if you're anywhere, I would say, above the marginal risk. So if you're in the marginal or higher, watch out for some severe weather, because of course they are localized events, and even if you're in that marginal risk, you could still be dealing with a fairly heavy downpour sometime today. If we look at the individual risks, here's your risk of a tornado, and they have a 15% chance. That's a fairly high risk, and they don't pull out the 15% risk just any time, kind of willy-nilly. They really calculate when they're going to do that. They really try to hold it back. They don't like to put above a 10% risk too often, and so they are putting a 15% risk. We've already seen reported tornadoes from yesterday night, where we had some tornado activity back through here, and in that hatched region, right through here, where you kind of see the black hatched region right here, that's where we're looking at the threat of EF2 or greater tornado. So this could definitely be a big event. If you're anywhere within this tornado risk, even just in the 2% risk, watch out for tornado activity. At least be aware of the risks of tornadoes for today. Here's the risk of hail, and of course this is another big significant risk. We have a 30% chance of hail within that hatched region. I believe that means that there's a chance that you see over 2-inch in diameter hail for those areas. So we're definitely looking at some big sizable hail and tornado activity for today in those regions. Here's your wind outlook. All for today, we're looking at a 15% risk in that yellow area, and that's for western Texas and western Oklahoma as well. Here's your day 2 outlook, which is for Sunday or tomorrow. We're looking at a slight risk of severe weather in effect in that yellow region for Mississippi, Arkansas, and Tennessee, as well as in that marginal risk we have in that green marginal risk. That's where we're looking at some severe weather, nothing too major, but you still want to be aware of severe weather. I don't think it's going to be as much of a tornado event as you get pretty much from the Mississippi River eastward, and as you cross the state borders from Texas into Louisiana and Arkansas. I think the tornado risk goes down a little bit, but it's still definitely there. I think the risk goes more to a wind hail event instead of tornadoes. We still do have that 5% chance of tornadoes for parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee. And if we look at your wind risk, we have a 15% chance in that yellow. For your day 3 outlook, really nothing too major. We have potentially a few pop-up thunderstorms, but it's not going to be anything that's going to really produce any major tornadoes or hail. It's just going to be a general thunderstorm risk. Watch out for a bit of thunder or lightning, and this will be for Monday. Now, if we fast forward to Wednesday, they actually have, again, a 15% chance, which is equivalent to a slight risk on their day 4 through 8 outlook over parts of the central Gulf states. So you go back through Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama northward all the way to Illinois and Indiana is where we have that 15% chance or slight risk in yellow. So we do want to watch out for the risk of thunderstorms. Even on the day 5 outlook through Wednesday, there is still some decent risk of seeing some severe weather, and I know I have quite a bit of viewers down through this area, so if you do want me to give you kind of an update for your area, just leave a comment down below and I'll be more than willing to give you a forecast for your area. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.